everyone, I'm Rachel Tessman from stampyourartout.com, and today I'd like to share with you some of my outside the box ideas that I created with the Sweet Sunflowers August 2022 Paper Pumpkin Kit. These kits are automatically delivered to me each month and contain everything that I need to make fun, creative paper crafting cards and projects. This August kit contains supplies for making 9 stunning cards, 3 of 3 different designs. Each kit includes a publication, like this one, with directions, full-color illustrations, details about the kit, and a link to access a how-to video so you can assemble the cards or projects as shown. The kits also include inks and stamps that can be used again and again, even after the consumables are used up. This August kit contained a soft suede and a crushed curry-colored ink pad, and this exclusive stamp set. The kits are a Stampin' Up! Product, so the colors, images, and supplies always coordinate with many other Stampin' Up! Products. I'll be using some of these in the alternate projects I create for you today. You can find the items that I used listed below and linked to my online store. You can also look below for links to learning more about paper pumpkin kits, starting your subscription through me so I can spoil you with exclusive gifts, ideas, and prizes, joining my Paper Pumpkin fan club on Facebook where you can see even more alternate project ideas shared daily, and if you're watching my video on YouTube, a link to my website where I've shared close-up photos of the projects that you're going to see today. I received a large clear block in my first paper pumpkin kit to use with all my future stamps. That tool and my scissors are all that I need for completing my kits as is. But in this video, you'll notice that I substitute that block for the ergonomic Stampin' Up! Blocks. I also use the larger versions of the ink pads and some additional adhesive, such as my Stampin' Seal. You won't need these, but they are available products from Stampin' Up! And for me, they're a bit easier and quicker to use while I demonstrate in my video. By the way, if you're looking for ideas for past kits, visit my website at stampyourartout.com, click on Paper Pumpkin in the top menu, and then choose Recent or Older Posts. I've been creating and sharing alternates since March of 2013 when Paper Pumpkin first began. This month we got some bonuses. We got an extra ink pad, and we got these beautiful gold foil sheets with that honeycomb design. Just want to show you how easy it is to just cut into the design and make some fun little accent pieces that either come out from behind an image or go on top of an image. You can even use that full gold sheet as a layer all by itself. And when I'm done, I'm going to add this to one of the cards that we're going to make. Now, I wouldn't recommend using a trimmer that slides, but one that has a rolling blade for cutting, or just scissors with a very long cutting blade on it. And you can just go along and trim out a straight piece too to use as a border or a layer. And I'm just going to add this to that same card. One more thing I want to point out before we get started with a project is the beauty of the watercolor imagery that goes into the cards from this kit. So the envelopes are designed on both sides, on the outside, and then you've got these two cards that have just stunning, beautiful watercolor paintings on them, and then you've got this one too, which is beautiful. So, but what I want to recommend on these is to not just use the card as is, if you can help it, because really, who looks at the backs of cards? And this is beautiful. So instead, cut up your pieces and use them as layers. I've got these two pieces that were cut from the front here, and then I've got this piece here that I'm using on another card. So let's go ahead and dive into one of the cards right now. After trimming this card base into 3 pieces, I'm going to use this on the front of a card base that I've chosen as our soft seafoam green color, because I think that's a really nice light accent for the green that's in the cards. So we're going to cut that in half at 5.5 inches, and then we're going to score it in half in this direction at 4.25 inches. And this will become the front part of our card. Now I also want to have some of that watercolor wash carry over to the inside. So I'm going to do the trimming like I normally do on my envelopes to open them up. I just trim a little slice off each side, like so, about 1/16 of an inch. And that allows us to open up and use that whole entire piece. Now, if the seams bother you, try to get over it. Because seriously, you'll want to use this whole thing. But what I thought I would do for the first one is not stress too many people out. I'm going to cut right above that seam, so you don't have to worry about that little folded part there. And then we're going to trim this to just under 4 1/4 inches. So maybe a little more or a little less than 1/16 of an inch. And then I'm going to trim off this edge here, this edge here, and I'm going to trim that to 5 1/2 inches. I know we're eliminating some of that flour, but you could save that. Seriously, that's precious, right? So now we have 2 layers. We have one for the inside of the card, and we have one for the outside of the card. Okay, we're not going to do any adhering yet, but we're going to bring in a tool that I try not to use in my introductory videos with my paper pumpkin projects, but I just have to show you a shaker card. Now you could do this Tulle shaker card. You could do this idea with a punch. You don't have to necessarily use dies, but I'm going to bring in my machine that's called the Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. And we're just going to hold this together, and we're going to die cut a circle area here, and this is going to be the front of the card, so the front lower right, because it's going to open in this, it's opening in this direction. So just hold it all steady. If it's hard to hold steady, you can put a little bit of adhesive on there, just as long as you're able to rub it off, because you're going to want to use all your pieces later on, and you'll have to separate these in order to create the shaker card. Now I've done Tulle shakers before. Tulle, Tulle is the Tulle shakers are made with tulle, the fabric tulle. So it's a little bit different than the common shaker card. We're going to be using our Stylish Shapes dies. So you use dies and embossing folders with this type of machine. We have a mini version of this machine. So if you fall in love with die cutting, embossing, that sort of thing, you can start out with the smaller machine. But I really think over time you're going to regret if you don't have the bigger one, so just get the big one. So then we've got our 2 pieces held close together, and I'm going to die cut right about here so that the die is actually going off the edge of the card a bit. So you'll want to have your layers put together. The base platform is number 1, then you've got the die adapter number 2, and then you've got your cutting plate number 3. You're going to put those all together like that with the paper and then the die cutting side down on top. Then what you'll do is you'll take one more cutting plate, and these come with all the plates that you need, all the base pieces, all the plates and stuff like that. So you don't need to worry about purchasing anything extra except for the set of dies or embossing folder that you like. And then we're just going to crank it on through, and let's just go backwards. So what it's doing is we've got 2 rollers in there that are coming together and putting lots of pressure on that metal piece. And the metal piece has sharp little edges in there, and it just cuts right through the paper. So we now have this little cutout on the front of our card. And it cut through both layers because we didn't have too many. I mean, I would say just a couple pieces at the most. Don't try to cut through more than that. But now we've got this fun little C shape. At this point in the video, I thought I was putting tear and tape adhesive on the green sheet. I obviously was not, but you'll want to take that tear and tape adhesive and put it all the way around the circle and then all the way around all of the edges. And now what I'm doing is I'm grabbing my Take Your Pick tool, and I am removing the release paper from the back side of most of the pieces here. Just realized I didn't have to do it from the edge, so I'm leaving that there. In fact, I'm pressing it back down. But yes, you want to have it removed around the area where you're going to add your tool. And when I've done Tulle shakers before, I've done them in the center of the front of the card, but we're going to do them off the edge. I've seen a few cards out there with them off the edge, and it's really a cool look. So now it's time to bring in the tool. And I've just got a little sampling of it here. So this is Tulle. Very fun, right? And we're going to cut a piece using our long bladed scissors. We're just going to cut in down the middle about 3 inches. Maybe, no, this is probably like 3.5, but it's wider than that circle. I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to press it so that it's right along the edge of the card, like that. Okay, I'm going to lift this first layer up and away, and I'm just going to make sure that this is pressed down nice and even all the way around. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to trim up the extra tulle that is peeking out here because we don't need that. Okay, let's open this back up. And we're going to add some shaker pieces. We're going to add sequins. Where is it? It's so hard to see. Everything's the same color right now. Okay, we're just going to put our bone folder down like that. And we're going to bring in our blue set of sequins. And we're going to grab a nice little tiny spoonful of them like that and press that right into the middle. Why did I say press? We didn't press it into the middle. We just placed it into the middle. And then we're going to fold this. Oh, wait. Then we want to do more adhesive. You can do it where you just press it back down again because the tool does have tiny little holes all the way around here. But I just want to ensure that we are not going to have an issue with the sequins coming out. So I'm going to put an extra bit of adhesive around these edges. And this time I'm going to tape it just because I do not want the pressure of me trying to tear it, pulling the sequins and having kind of a, I don't want to create a mess. So we're going to be really careful about adding the tear and tape this time. Okay, it's a little bit putsy to do, but it's worth it. You'll see. So now we're going to fold over that tool again onto itself and press it flat on top of the adhesive that we just added. And you'll be able to feel that adhesive, like I said, between the holes, and that's normal. Okay, now we're going to add just one more bit of adhesive along the sides here because we want our top layer to connect. We don't have to worry about being detailed around the circle anymore. Now you have some options here. Before you add this layer to the front of the card, you can tie like twine or ribbon around this before adding it, and then you won't see the twine on the inside. I like the look of having a little bit of it carry over to the inside, so I'm going to ignore that step and just move on with connecting these layers together. And I'm looking at the bottom edge of my card because I want to make sure that that part connects more than anything. And then I'm looking at the sides. All right, so we've got that in place, and now we have our little shaker part, and those little sequins just stay right in that circle, even though it looks like they want to just fall out this right side, right? There we go. Okay, so next is the inside of the card. So we're going to take that envelope piece that we cut out, and we're going to add that to the inside. And this time, we're going to position from the fold. You can see that fold, that little crease line going through there. We do not want to go on top of that. We want to be just below it. And then we'll line up with a side, an edge on the side here. And if it does line up perfectly, great. If it doesn't, then you might have to trim a little bit off. And looks like we need to trim just a little sliver off the side here. So this is what we see now when the card is closed. You can see that there's a bunch of little flowers in there. We're going to put our words here, so we're going to grab some of those sentiment pieces from the kit, So the ones that look like this and like that. And we're going to stamp on them. We're going to do some masking so that we only ink up a portion of the stamp. So we're going to be using this one here that says, "Wishing you so much happiness." Put that onto our block. And we'll use our soft suede ink color. Again, I'm using the larger ink pads. It's just what I'm used to. Let's figure out which one we want on the front. Actually, let's figure out which one we want on the inside. The inside, I think I want to have some bright colors. So let's go ahead and use this one on the outside. And that one's going to say, "Wishing you so much." So I'm eliminating inking up the whole stamp. I'm just inking up a portion of it. Now, if that makes you nervous to do it that way, you could certainly put some masking tape over the portion of the stamp that you don't want to have inked up. There we go. And then it looks like I had a little bit of ink on the H there, so I'm just wiping that away. And we're going to stamp that down right in the center of our sentiment strip. "Wishing you so much," and I'll go clean this stamp off. That's the Stamp and Scrub. It's an awesome tool for cleaning your stamps. It gets right in the grooves because it has tiny little fibers that reach in there. And I'm just pressing this onto my grid paper to make sure that I have no excess ink. And now what I think I'm going to do is the masking of those letters that we just stamped. I want to make sure that they do not get inked up. So I'm masking them by just putting some tape over the top. Then I'm going to go ahead and ink up that portion of the stamp. And you can see I got some ink on the tape. So yeah, the tape will really guarantee that you are not inking in the wrong spot. After I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and stamp onto the center of this piece. And now we have our outside and our inside words. So now I'm taking a length of linen thread and a length of this elegant trim, and I'm just tying a knot, well actually a bow, at the top. Bows sometimes take a little wiggling to get going. So there we have our bow at the top, and I think I'm going to shift it. So I'm going to open up my card, bend it a little bit, and shift it over to where this leaf begins. Sometimes I think I hit record and I do not. So I went a little farther ahead than I should have. I'm going to back up a bit just to tell you what I did here. So I added this piece and this piece to the, this piece to the card. This one I added with little glue dots from the kit onto the back side of this piece here, and on this one onto the back side of this piece. In the middle though, I connected them with a dimensional. So I connected both of them first to the card, and then I slipped a dimensional between these two layers coming from the front side. And because of the holes of the tool, it connects to the one in the back of the card. So these two are connected with a dimensional. Now, if you're probably saying, why didn't you put a dimensional on this end? I tried that out on my first card, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. And that one, it just seemed to wobble more. It looked like this was going into the card because this is fabric. And of course, so then it, I don't know, it just kind of had that wiggly look to it. So I decided this looked a little bit better if it was just dimensional between this end of the sentiment piece. And then on the other card that I made, so I got this one here, very similar, except I added bees to this one. And I'm going to show you how I did the bees in just a second. So this one says, "Thank you, friend." I want to show you too, when you shake it, that those sequins will flow through here. They just will flow around the dimensional that's stuck between the two layers. So you do have the ability to continue to shake that card, and the shaker pieces will go down and through. Well, you got to kind of work them. There they go. So they will go down and through there. In fact, that little section will help hold some of the sequins up there so that they don't pool to the bottom of the card. So again, I've got some bees here, and I thought I was recording. So let me show you through that, walk you through that step really quick again. Again, you didn't see it. All right, so you're going to stamp your bee, and you're going to stamp off onto scrap paper and then stamp on to your card. So I've got 2 bees mounted onto my block here. I'm stamping off, and then I'm stamping onto my card. So pretend that these bees are stamped onto my card. I didn't do a very good job on that one, did I? Now we're going to take our crushed curry ink, and we want to get a little bit of ink off to the side. Now you can't do that with a little Stampin' Spot or a little tiny ink pad, but you can grab your clear block and you can press it into the ink pad to pick up some color on the surface. So that way you're kind of getting that same look there. You're getting just kind of a puddle of color. Oh, and then we need it. So now what we're going to grab is our blender pen. So blender pens are awesome for having a watercolor look in the most simplest way. This is super easy. So you're going to take your blender pen. I always run mine before I start. I just want to make sure that they're clear. I don't have any color on them. I'm going to dip into my color that's onto my either my clear block or on the cover of my ink pad. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to color my bees. And I can color my bees with the dark amount of yellow on one side. And then I can run my blender pen until it's kind of on the light yellow side and come back in and color on the other side of my bee. So it gives it more of a 3D rounded look by having dark on one and light on the other. And then you just run your blender pen till it's clear, cap it, and it's ready for you to use in a new color. Right out of the gate with a more intense card. Let's do some simple ones now. I'm going to take this Mossy Meadow sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and I'm going to score it in this direction at 5.5 inches using my light blade. I've marked mine with the word score. I used Sharpie to just write that in there. And now I'm going to turn it in this direction, and I'm going to cut at 4.25 inches with my dark blade. That's the one that cuts. And now I have 2 card bases. Remember the 2 extra pieces that we cut off that card base from the kit? So we have, let me just grab my bone folder here. We have those 2 pieces right here. Remember, we cut them in half like that to get 2 pieces to decorate cards with. So we're going to layer them onto this card. Let's start with this one here. And we're going to use Versamark ink. Versamark ink is a clear sticky ink that allows you to get tone on tone. It does it does embossing for, like, it helps you do embossing with heat embossing, with embossing powders. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing some random leaf image stamping around the outside edge of my card. And again, you're seeing this tone on tone look. So we're getting that darker green ink. Oops, be a little more careful, Rachel. We're getting that darker green ink look just with this Versamark ink pad. Now I want to show you the difference. We're going to do that now onto Blackberry Bliss cardstock. It's the same ink pad, and we're just going to go around carefully. This one's a little bit harder to see because it's a darker cardstock. So if I angle it occasionally, I'll be able to tell what I'm doing. But I'm going to hold them up at towards the camera so you can see what effect we're getting. And again, you can see a little bit better on the lighter green color, but we're getting a tone-on-tone look with both of those cardstock colors. And when this dries, it's going to be a deeper Blackberry Bliss look onto the Blackberry Bliss cardstock, a deeper Mossy Meadow look onto the Mossy Meadow cardstock. So I'm going to finish stamping, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry, and I will be right back. So I forgot that the darker the color cardstock, the harder it is to see it. So we're just not going to do the tone on tone with just drying the ink on there. Instead, I think I'm going to bring in some embossing powder and show you the other way that you can use Versamark. Well, one other way. So we've got our Mossy Meadow all stamped, and now we're going to take our card layer. And I think it was this one that we were working with. And we're just gonna put that right smack dab in the middle of our card. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let's add some gold cording. I think I've got some already cut here. So let me peel this back off, these two at the bottom. We're just gonna wrap this around, kind of like that, just to give it a fun, I don't know, an elegant look, I should say. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hold those back there like that. Grab our dimensionals again. And the dimensionals are going to act as the adhesive to hold down that gold cording. Do the same thing over here. There we go. So pretty. And then let's bring in those brushed brass butterflies. Now you could have stamped like a sentiment up there, but let's go ahead and add a layer on the inside of our card now. We're going to bring in the trimmer and we're going to cut that extra envelope piece down. You can see that there's a little connection here. We're going to trim that off of each side. Actually, let's trim here first. Now we can trim that up. Okay, and about half. It doesn't matter if it's not exact or anything, but we're going to cut that in half. So now we have a couple inside layers and we have the couple outside layers, right? I think I'm going to pair that one up with that. So let's put this one on the inside of the card, and that will be where we can write our well wishes, our note of thanks, our happy birthday, our sympathy. It's a card that can be any occasion that you want it to be, a blank card. All right, so now let's finish the other card. For this one, let's bring in one of these pieces. Now I think it would be fun to just layer it up like that, but I don't want to waste all of that beautiful gold. So I'm going to center it and I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm just going to do some trimming. I'm going to go in about, I don't know, a ½ inch. And now we didn't waste all of that. Let's grab our other card base. Let's put some dimensionals on. Oh, let's stamp this one first. Let's go ahead and stamp that with the word thank you. And we'll use our soft suede ink. Actually, let's stamp it with the word hello. We haven't used the word hello yet, have we? Okay. So there we go. Let's go ahead and stamp that in this upper corner like that. And now let's put dimensionals on the back side. If you run out of dimensionals from the kit, you can purchase extra dimensionals in the online store. Now, if you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you're going to find that over time, your adhesive supply does multiply, and you don't need to necessarily buy more dimensionals. But if you're liking having different sizes, we have this size as well. So it's a little bit larger. Okay, I've peeled off the release paper. What I'm going to do is make sure I've got my card opening in the correct direction. I'm going to lay this down centered on top of the card base. Bring this in. Try not to move this. We will center and set this down. And then you just want to press to make sure that the dimensionals grab onto the cardstock through the holes of this layer. So you can see that's what's been done. We'll go ahead and we'll add this piece, but we have that extra meshy portion here that we did not use yet, and you could just take and, you know, cut around. Such a pretty card. So 2 simple cards done with the card-based pieces that we'd cut off and cut in half. And just some gold accenting, some Versamark on this one, that gold hexagon layer on this one. Now I have a couple other versions of that. So I did it in the Blackberry Bliss with the word thank you. Cut my mesh pieces or whatever on the inside slightly differently, but still, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do that. And with the purple, with the Blackberry Bliss, instead of just leaving it to dry, I took and put embossing powder, clear embossing powder, onto the Versamark stamped areas, and then used my heat tool to emboss to get that tone-on-tone look to be more vibrant, because we weren't achieving that with just stamping it, which you can see here. It's pretty much faded. Here are a couple other colors just to prove that the lighter colors tend to work a little bit better with that tone-on-tone look than the darker colors. And it definitely does not work with black cardstock. I've tried that before too. But yeah, just the same kind of designs here, and on the inside just that one piece. So you can use this as a note card to write to friends for whatever purpose you need. So for fun, I took the largest of the squares and die cut from some basic white cardstock. And we're going to use our crushed curry ink on this and on this piece here. So you'll just ink up your stamp by pressing it down into the ink pad. And I love that they're clear because you can see right over the top of them. I felt like there was a direction to this, so I'm just going to twist this until I feel like I'm in the right spot. And I'm going to hover and stamp over the top. Now it does not line up perfectly. Just want to warn you, there's no perfect edge that lines up. You can see that on the bottom, that the stamp goes beyond the cutout. That's okay. Now after we've stamped this, then you can come in with your blender pen, and you can bring that color out a bit into the rest of the design. Can you see how that's working there? It's becoming more yellowish throughout the middle of the petals. So it just kind of makes it a little closer to the image that you see in the watercolor, the cards that they created for us, the watercolor imagery. So now I've got that done. We're going to do that same technique onto the basic white cardstock here. We'll just stamp that off to the side. And again, coming in, and the blender pen pulls the ink into the surrounding areas. You don't want to go over an area too long with the blender pen because it can kind of pill the cardstock, you know, make little areas that pull up and off. So try not to overdo it, just do it lightly. And now we have a blended sunflower. Let's do the centers of each of these flowers. And you could do the same thing where you use your blending tool. Here, in fact, let's run this till it's clear. Brings a bit of light brown into it. Just kind of softens it up a bit, right? We're going to be using that piece, and actually I'm going to keep that open, and we're going to grab the word thank you, and we're going to stamp that towards the top of this piece here. Now, do you remember this piece? This is the one we die cut from our first card. And I'm just going to break it away from our soft seafoam card base piece. Let's bring in this card base and our trimmer, and we're going to score. First we're going to emphasize that score line there, and then we're going to score halfway between that score line and the edge here. So halfway between, well, halfway of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. So we're going to score there, and we're going to score the same distance on the other side, 2 1/8. And then we're going to fold those two sides in, use our bone folder, and give it a good crease. And I want them to meet up. I don't want them to overlap. It looks like one got a little far. Okay, let's grab some Mossy Meadow cardstock. And I'm going to cut one piece to 1 1/4 inches by 9 1/4 inches. So we've got a strip that I cut off the edge from the 11-inch edge. Okay, so 1 1/4 by 9 1/4. And then we need a piece that, and I don't think this is long enough. Nope, it's not. Well, we'll cut the next one. This one's going to be 1 inch by 3 inches. And then we're going to score it 1/2 inch and 1 inch from one end. Flip it around and do the same thing to the other side. So 1/2 inch and 1 inch, so that you've got in the middle a 1 inch section. We're going to just kind of zigzag fold it like that. Okay, that is going to be a mechanism for our card. And now we need a slightly longer piece. Let me go grab that. I'm cutting this next one down to also 1 inch. And then in the other direction, I'm going to go to 5 1/8. So 1 by 5 1/8, and then I'm going to score 1/2 inch in from that end and 1/2 inch in from this end, like that. Okay, let's go ahead and put some adhesive onto the back side of this piece, and I'm just going to use seal adhesive. Oops, if I can hold the card. Okay, so I'm just putting some adhesive right there, and I'm going to center this the best I can. I'm just eyeballing it between these two folds. So it's crossing over the middle fold, but it's connected just inside both of these, and the card can fold shut, which is why this distance here is 4 1/8 inches instead of 4 1/4. This piece is also going to get adhesive a little bit here and a little bit here. And when you fold it back into that position, you can see the adhesive there. And we're going to follow the channel between those two and line that up with this score line running through the middle of the card. Place that right like that. And now you can see when I push the back of the card out and away, this part bends forward. And you can see this piece here stays flat even though this is rounded. So this is our little mechanism here, and it's going to hold a central part of our card on the inside. Before we do that though, let's bring back these guys. So these are the strips that I cut right at the beginning with my scissors, and I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue, which is the one with the green cap. I transferred it to this bottle that helps squeeze out the glue in kind of a finer line. I find it helps me out. And we're just going to take and connect that to the inside of this, like here. And it's going to cross over the bendy part. It's not going to interfere with it much. Okay, so we're just connecting it like that. And you can see we've got 1/8 of an inch bordering the top and the side here and going around. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And yes, I have shared a link for that glue bottle in my supplies list, so you can access it. So you can see that even when you are opening the card this way, it doesn't interfere too much with that mechanism. So we want to be able to have that central piece pop out at us, but have a little bit of gold accenting behind. Now you're totally welcome to slip it underneath. I just found that it worked fine this way because you can get the glitz all the way through. So you're not actually going to push that back further than what we're doing anyways. Okay, the next piece that we're going to add is, where did it go? It's one of these central pieces like that. Oh gosh, I love this so much. So that's going to go here like that. Now you can see why that gold accenting is just so beautiful right behind it on either side. We're going to connect that in the middle. So we're going to put adhesive right across this section here. We'll lay it right down in the center like that. So pretty. And do you see now when you open the card, so let's close it, and now let's open it, and this piece just naturally can push forward and pop out. It's called the Pop Out Bendy Fun Fold card. I got the idea from my friend Susan Campfield. She got the idea from, oh gosh, who was it? Mixed Up Crafts, yes. Okay, so we've got this piece stamped here. We've got that piece. We're also going to use one of these floral pieces here. These are so delicate, but yet so pretty, so we want to make sure we use that. We're going to grab this piece, and we're going to grab these two pieces now. So, oh, one more piece. We need the sentiment layer. And for our sentiment piece, we're just going to stamp for a one-of-a-kind friend in the middle. And we're going to put that on dimensionals and stick that inside the card. And then we'll go ahead and close up the card, because we'll be done with the inside. I know, I just covered up those beautiful flowers, didn't I? Sorry about that. So let's close this up. What I've done is I've put a score line into this strip at 2 3/4 inches. And we're actually going to wrap to the front, I think. I'm peeking at my finished one. We're going to wrap to the front. So we're going to start here and wrap this way. And I've only put one score line in because sometimes when you measure your card, it doesn't go exactly the way you'd planned. Sometimes it's a fraction of an inch off. So you want to wrap it like that. And then we're going to add some adhesive in here. And connect those two. Now we're going to put some adhesive on the back side. We're going to use the adhesive from the kit, the glue dots. You guys should see the scene in the back. It's pretty messy. We're going to place these glue dots down along the back side of the card here, right through the middle. These glue dots are the perfect width because they're not too wide, they're not too skinny. They're going to hold onto our gold little strips that we've got here really well. So we're going to put half of the gold strip on that one and half on this one. And now you can just kind of press in the middle there. All right, and now we're going to flip it. And we're going to put some adhesive through here with just our seal adhesive. Or you could use glue dots in the kit, but you could go an inch this way and an inch that way. And we're going to wrap to the middle, and we're going to trim, because we don't need all of that. And you might as well save that for another card, right? And we'll wrap to the middle on this one and trim. Now we're going to grab this piece and we're going to put adhesive down here, about an inch, inch and a quarter up, and we'll add that to the center so that this edge here is flush with the straight edge along the bottom. We're going to add this piece with dimensionals, so I'm going to grab dimensionals and put them on the back side of the leaves and this one flower, just like we did before. But I need to be careful because I want this stem here to stay attached to our belly band. This is becoming the belly band of the card. So I'm carefully adding these pieces here so that that's not dipping below. Then I'm going to take a dimensional and I'm going to press that right into place to hold that piece down. And then we're going to grab the sunflower. Yeah, you definitely need more dimensionals to finish off the cards I'm making. And we're going to add a couple more here. Probably only needed 2 more. And that will hold our beautiful sunflower in place right there. One more thing that I want to add is a little bit of gold and a little bit of the linen thread. So I'm going to take 2 strands and I'm going to cut. It's about 8 inches maybe. A double bow here. We'll grab a glue dot from the kit. We'll place it right in this spot here. And you know what, just for some thickness, we'll add another one right on top of it. And we'll set that right there. So now we have, as you can see, and I'm going to zoom back out again, we have our pop-out bendy fun fold card. Isn't that fun? Yay. This next project is slightly different than the ones that I've been creating with you. Instead of a card, we're going to make a multi-pocket type of project that holds lots of little tags. So it's sort of 3D-ish, sort of not, but it's more like a gift rather than just a card. This one was made and sent to me by Rose Carey, who is a very talented demonstrator. And she just puts a lot of details into the things she creates. So fun, right? So you can see we've got tags, we've got even a little mini card in here. So we're going to attempt to make a slightly simpler version of this fun project with the paper pumpkin kit. And I'll need, because you can see here we've got this little base part here, we're going to need a sheet of designer paper, so something slightly larger than what comes in the kit. I'm bringing in a sheet from the, oh gosh, let's look it up here. It's a mini catalog paper set called Pretty Prints, and it includes Calypso, let's see here. It coordinates with Bermuda Bay, Blackberry Bliss, Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, Evening Evergreen, Gorgeous Grape, Petal Pink, Rich Raspberry, Shaded Spruce. I mean, there's a lot of colors within each sheet, but we're going to be using the one that coordinates with the Blackberry Bliss color, so this purplish one. And we're going to trim our paper to 8 by 8. Now I chose this sheet because it's not super loud or dominant. It has a very basic design, especially on the back side. I didn't want something that was really distracting. At this point now we're going to score it, and when you score or fold put a crease line in to fold designer paper, you want to be extra careful not to press super hard with your scoring blade because it's thinner paper. So you could accidentally, cut through if you press too hard with your blade. So be careful when scoring designer paper. So now we've put some crease marks in there. We're going to go ahead and fold along the score lines here. Let me grab my bone folder. And then we'll open it up and we'll score this way. And then let's go ahead and reverse those folds the opposite way. We just want our folds to be flexible. All right. So then we look at this and we decide, okay, we can see the two different sides of the designer paper. What side do we want to be seeing in these little places here? And it looks to me like I want to be showing off more of the green areas. The blue kind of disappears in here, doesn't it? So now let's attempt to do the folding. The design that we want to see the most of, I should say, is on the inside. So we're going to fold like this. And let's go ahead and make sure that all those corners meet up really well. And then we're going to crease it down. And it's going to kind of reposition those paper fibers a bit when you crease it in that direction because you're kind of bunching up this area, right? So now when we fold this first flap down, leaving about 1/2 inch here on each edge, you can see that it exposes our dominant side that we want. On the finished sample, she also took and folded this one in this direction, and then it's tucked in like that. So you can see that less dominant design here. And then this design was actually folded the opposite direction, but I believe we'll have to fold first in this direction just to get the crease going. And then we can tuck back like that. So you can fold all of them from this position where they're all showing like we just did, right? Let's go ahead and do that again. So we're folding like that, then we crease down, crease down, crease down. But then it's just a matter of tucking. Where do you want to tuck your papers? Now, if you want to have this exposed here like that, you certainly can. You can just, have it go like this instead. It's really up to you which direction you want these flaps to go. In fact, you could even fold this one to the inside. So you have options on your design. Really, we're just making pockets. This one is sort of an important pocket here because you can use this section here like she did, like Rose did with her smallest tag. She has a little place to stick it right there. Now, it could possibly go all the way through if you don't have like a little stopper in there. What she's got here is a little bit of ribbon that's kind of holding it from going much further. So consider that too. If you're going to have this become a pocket, you may want to have this sealed down here so nothing continues to slide through. But all of these, once you connect like this portion to here, you've got pockets throughout. And so your papers shouldn't slide down. So again, if you want to seal things off, seal it here and seal it here. All right, so let's go ahead and make some tags now, and then we can start putting this together. We will be needing some extra cardstock. You can see on hers that she's got a supporting piece back here that keeps it nice and stiff. Plus she's made this into a pocket as well. Plus there might be some that we'll need for layers. So I'm going to bring in Mossy Meadow for our accent cardstock color. The next thing I did is I took this card base from the kit and I laid these pieces on here to see sort of where I wanted my piece for the front of my card, maybe places where I could grab tag bases and stuff like that. So, and we'll even need like a little piece for the front here. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. Now, the tags that she made were done with dies, and I demonstrated dies at the beginning of this video. If you didn't catch that, you'll want to rewind and watch. Dies, you don't have to use dies to make tags though, and we won't be using dies for ours. We're going to go ahead and just cut long rectangles. So I'm cutting my card in half at the score line. And then I'm going to cut this one at 1 3/4 inches. And then I'm going to cut in this direction at 2 3/4 inches. And then I'm going to cut in this direction at 2 3/4 inches. So I end up with these pieces here. Now let's go ahead and cut this piece. I'm going to cut this one at 1 3/4 in this direction. And then I'm going to cut this at 1 3/4 in this direction. And then I'm going to cut an inch off of this end. And then I'm going to cut this one here. I'm going to do an inch off here. I'm going to cut this in half. So that'll be 1 1/4 inches on each side. And then I think I'm going to cut this one in half. Now this one only measures 2 3/4 inches. So to cut that in half, it'd be 1 3/8 inches. These will be little layers for sentiments. So now I've paired up all of these pieces to make layers for the front, layers for the card, layers for tags. So you can see how they're all paired up here. This one was just flipped over. It's the 1 inch one here. All right, so now let's go ahead and cut some of our mossy meadow. I'm going to cut down the middle, cutting at 4 1/4 inches here. And then we're going to turn and cut 4 1/4 inches here. Then we're going to cut this to 3 inches. And we'll cut that to 6 inches. And then we're going to score this at 3 inches. Let's add this piece to the front of that. The reason why I just flipped that over is because along the edge here, when you have a card folded over, sometimes you can see both edges from one side, and I can see that on this side. So I knew that this was the shorter of the two layers, and I wanted that to the back. Now on the inside of this one, I'm just going to bring in a piece of 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 soft sea foam, that color we used on the other project. You could use white, you could use copy paper, you could use any scrap that's light enough that coordinates so that you have a place to write on the inside of your card. And then I think I'm going to take some gold cord and just tie a little tiny bow. We'll grab a glue dot from the kit and we'll roll it a little bit so it's a little narrower, not so circular. And we'll add that right there. Now we have the card for our pockets. Okay. Let's go ahead and work on this piece next. And I've got this nice scrap that's about 1 1/4 inches in this direction. Which I think is kind of pretty good for this punch. So we're going to take this leaf punch here and we're going to punch it in this direction. I'm tilting it a little bit so you can fit the whole thing in. And that way we're avoiding punching any of that one right there. We're going to turn it in this direction and do the same thing. This is our bow punch. Sorry, I called it a leaf punch. So just keep flipping back and forth until you feel like you've got a good number. Let's punch in this direction now. I'm just going to get a little smidgen of that. Now we've got some scraps coming out of it. Okay, so we have a little one. We have a couple larger ones, a few larger ones. I think I probably want to punch more with some more scrap. We'll just grab another scrap of this. For this piece, this is going to go on the front, and I'm going to flip these two around so that I sort of have like a symmetrical look here. And I'm going to grab my multi-purpose glue in my bottle that allows me to squeeze out just a little bit. And I'm going to place that right in here like that. Let's do the same thing with this one. And then let's stamp this piece. I'm going to use our soft suede ink, the darker of the two. And I'm going to stamp this one the same way, so I might as well stamp that now. All right, let's take some gold cord again and just kind of make some loop-de-loops here. And then I'm going to grab my larger dimensionals and just kind of hold this in place in the middle here. And if you have some dimensionals left from your kit, the tinier ones, I think we're going to add a bee to this piece. So let's grab a bee that's facing in the right direction and take a tiny dimensional. And you can cut your dimensionals down too. So if you don't have enough left, you can always take a sheet of larger ones and trim them to size. Okay, so this will go on the front like that. All right, for this one here, we're just going to add a little bit of seal here, and then we're going to connect them in the two upper left-hand corners. So they look like that in the back. I'm going to bring in one of my Stamp and Pierce mats. This is the one that I pierce into. And we're just going to poke a hole at the top using our take your pick tool, the piercer part. And I'm going to grab some of my thread and my elegant trim, which got caught up here. And I think I'm going to grab, I don't know, about 9 inches. Now, if you have trouble poking these two ends through, which I don't seem to have in this, yep, I did. I mean, you can work at it for a while, or you can invest in a simple little loop. A simple little loop. These are little threaders for sewers. You know, people who sew, they need to go through those tiny little holes in their needles. So it's a needle threader. All right, and then we're going to bring all 4 ends together. They don't have to be completely even, but we're just going to take and do what's called an overhand knot. So we're making a loop. We're going to take these ends and bring them around to the back and pull them through that loop. So it's just like tying a knot. It's an overhand knot. It's tying a knot, but with a bunch more threads than you normally would, and then you just kind of have to cinch them down towards the base here. Tighten it up, and we can go ahead and stamp that. Let's take our word hello, and we can stamp this right towards the top like that. And you know what, let's add a bee to this one too. So let's flip that guy over. You could add a gem. You could put Wink of Stella on here to make it glitz a little bit. Anyways, there's our first little tag, and the cords may be a little long, so you can always trim them up if that bugs you. Let's do this one next. For this one, I'm going to stamp the longer sentiment that says, wishing you so much happiness. And we're stamping that on the white side. You can definitely stamp it on the other side too, but I just wanted this to really pop. And we're going to grab a couple leaves. We'll grab this shorter one here. And now let's hold our piece in place. Let's kind of hover it, make sure it fits. That looks good. And I'm going to add this with dimensionals. I'm using a lot of dimensionals, so again, you may need to invest or you may need to go back into a past stash from a paper pumpkin kit before. And for this one, we'll do the same thing where we pierce a hole towards the top. Grab some strands of the linen thread and our gold elegant trim. Okay, there's another finished tag. And let's go ahead and just adhere this one straight down. So I can use my seal adhesive on this one. And I think I want to add a bee to that too. But I think I'm just going to glue it straight down. There we go. And then this last one, I think what I want to do is actually stamp on it with our sunflower. And I'm just going to ink up a portion of it. By the way, I just want to mention as I'm cleaning this little speck of cardstock off here that the Stampin' Pierce mat is recommended for photopolymer stamps because it creates that cushion that you don't get or you don't have that definitely comes on the other sorts of stamps, the cling stamps, the red rubber stamps. So especially when you're using like a solid color or a solid image stamp, it's nice to have that firm cushion under there. So I'm just gonna, go ahead and use it on this last one. So I've got my Stampin' Pierce mat under here, and it just adds some support, so you get more of an even stamp when you stamp your images. Let's go ahead and do our center of our flower. I'm going to stamp that off. I want a slightly lighter, soft suede look on that. And let's bring in our blender pen and swirl some of this color outwards. Get our petals a bit more yellow. All right, so this one's going to go, we're going to layer a leaf under there, I think. And then we'll add some seal at the top and a dimensional towards the bottom. And then let's stamp the word thank you here. So these tags can be added to gifts. They can be used to embellish cards further, so you could place them on the front of a card base. You could also use them as bookmarks. All right, so there we have our tags all set to go. You could also just, give that to somebody and, just tuck it into their little area where they're going to find it, just for a sweet little note. Okay, so this piece here, which is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, we're just going to layer onto the back side of this. Let's first go ahead and seal these sections down. I'm going to use just a skinny little strip of glue here. And I kind of like that look there where it's puckered out a bit. And then we're going to use a skinny little strip down here. Put some weight on it for a while, let it dry. So I stamped the top edge and the side edge here with Versamark ink with the sunflower images. Kind of made a boo-boo there, but that's okay because we're gonna cover up a big portion of it. Then I laid this on top, and I thought, it doesn't pop enough. It would be nice if we could have maybe a little gold layering behind it like that. That would really make it stand out. But I didn't want to waste all of that honeycomb stuff, so I pulled out of my stash some of my gold foil paper, and I cut a piece that was 4 1/16 by 4 1/16, so that we just have that little peak of gold sticking out the top and the side. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down to my mossy meadow piece here. So it's now lined up in the lower right-hand corner. We'll do the same with this, but before we do that, I think I like the idea that Rose had on hers. And I'm just going to punch a rounded little section here to use as a tab to grab whatever is in that pocket back there. Now, because I'm making a pocket, I'm going to go ahead and just put adhesive on 3 of the sides, like that. And you could use the multi-purpose liquid glue, you could use tear and tape, any kind of adhesive that could create a line so that you have the ability to keep that as a pocket. She also had some thickness added between hers, so if you're going to add something super thick in here, you may want to, I'll show you what she did on hers. You can see she added a little bit of cardstock that's folded up in there. Just little strips of it. She did on this side as well. And it just gives it a little bit of a lift. She's a smart girl. But I know that I'm just adding one of my taller tags back there. So there is going to be room. And it's not going to create much puckering or anything like that. So that's going to go like that. And you know what? We might as well just add these to the pockets. See how it looks. It's going to be very frilly with all of these little tag cords and stuff like that. I think I'm going to bring this one to the front. Stick that one in the middle there. This one can get tucked in the side. This one can go on the front here. And we're going to add that with dimensionals. And I think I'm just going to add the dimensionals along the bottom here. And because it's kind of rounded, you can see it kind of rounds out here with everything tucked in. So then I think I'm going to put adhesive, just seal adhesive, right in this spot. And that'll attach the top portion of that label piece. And now we have our finished project. Very fun. A gift of tags. There's where the card is. Lots of little tags. Oh, so cute. And you technically could even fit it into an envelope because this width here is 4 1/4 inches. And this is definitely going to fit within the 5 1/2 inch space. So if you wanted to put it in an envelope, you could. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Wink of Stella, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It is a fun little paintbrush tool, basically, that allows you to paint on a little bit of shimmer. So I will hold this at an angle so you can see how the sunflower now has some shine to it. Hopefully you can see that. It's really fun. I recommend it. It needs to be added to every crafter's stash. Now that you've watched my video, I hope that you can see that there is so much more to these kits than meets the eye. With just a few extra supplies and some imagination, you can go beyond and make so much more. Want to give these paper pumpkin kits a try? They're just $23.50 plus tax per month in the US. Shipping is included. You control which months you get your kits, and there's no commitment or obligation. And by clicking on my personalized link below and starting your subscription with me as your demonstrator, you'll have access to my exclusive paper pumpkin project ideas too. Thank you for watching. It builds creativity to think outside the box. To access paper pumpkin kit ideas that I'll share in the future, be sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and my website, because I share even more each month in other special blog posts. In fact, Click on my website link below so you can access the visual supply list and view close-up photos of all that I've shared today. What's in store next month? The September 2022 Spooky Treats Paper Pumpkin Kit includes everything that you'll need to make 18 adorable treat boxes. But of course, I'll show you how to make more than just that. So make sure that you have an active subscription by September 10th. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Now I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.